On March 17th of this year, I submitted a request for 4 items. It was a large set of items, but 4 items. We'll start with the easiest one. I asked for the Greenburgh email list. I didn't get that until April 21st, even though it had been made available previously. So I'm not sure what the delay was. I'm glad I got it, but it was interesting that we needed an extension for something that had already been previously delivered several times over. I also asked for all written capital improvement requests for all departments in the year 2017. What I got was the published report. I didn't get all written requests. I want to see all written requests for capital from police, from public works, from Theodore Young, from Parks and Rec. Those are in writing. I know that they're available in writing, and they haven't been provided.
Because I have no problem giving out that information.
The question, the theme of this conversation is going to be, why on this day, May 2nd, are we having a conversation about reading this document and figuring out how to fulfill it? Why not? Why does this have to wait until this day for an appeal to happen in order for somebody to actually read the words that says all written capital improvement requests from all departments for the year 2017? That's as easy as English to read. Anybody who speaks our language understands what that says. It's not a summary report. It's not the result. It's all written. It's not the response. It's the requests. I want to know what Theodore Young requests. I want to know what Parks and Rec requests. I want to know what the police request. And then how those decisions get made, I should be available. That should be something that I should see, not the results. And I shouldn't have to wait until May 2nd to see to have a discussion about the English meaning of these words. This is a policy question about how you guys treat foils generally. And I think this is problematic, and it's a theme that's going to run through a lot of other conversations we're about to have.
Well, Mr. Sherman, we have a limited amount of time, so let's talk about the documents that you requested, the documents that you received, and what you still...
Mr. Lewis, respectfully, on March 17th, I requested a document that you have provided 7 times over to other people, and it took you until April 21st to give that document to me. Your limited amount of time argument isn't applicable here.
Which document?
The Greenburgh email list.
So when somebody asks for the Greenburgh email list, are we giving a Greenburgh email list from 3 months ago, or are we rerunning it to give them the updated GQ list?
I don't know. Joe Lucchese, as you know, has control over that list. He gets a copy of the FOIA request. He provides the document to me or to the clerk's office, or he gives it to me. I provide it to him.
I think really the problem is not the intent. I think the problem is that we just get so many hundreds of emails. I know myself, I'm getting like 100 because you see many of the responses. I could be up from like 5:30 in the morning and go practically nonstop responding to everything till 1 in the morning, and then you start again 5:30 in the morning, and I have a whole mess of other emails. So a lot of things really fall through it doesn't fall through the cracks intentionally, but if you have all these requests, you say I'm going to get to it, and sometimes something like a capital budget.
It's not even falling through the cracks. It's just that we're very busy with a number of FOIA requests.
And other things with the town, and you have.
Mr. Finder,
I'm just telling you the problem.
I appreciate the problem, but Mr. Sheehan's statement just now is indicative of the fact that what you're saying is inapplicable to this problem. Mr. Sheehan just asked the question, do you even know whether or not getting the up-to-date email list or a previous email list is the problem? And the fact is, Mr. Lewis doesn't even know the answer to the question. If the answer was, we'll just give him the last known email list, that would be a reason to get me the thing sooner. If the reason was, well, we want to make sure that we get him the most up-to-date email list, an answer that Mr. Lewis just now didn't give, that would be a reason for us to get it later. But he doesn't even know the answer. And that doesn't change the fact that the law 360-8 Part B subsection C says When I get this, I should get an acknowledgement of the request in writing, including an approximate date when the request will be granted or denied in whole or in part. And that shall not be more than 20 business days after the date of acknowledgement. And if I don't get it, it should be in writing, indicating the reason for the inability to grant the request with the time and date certain. None of which I got. Total failure to comply with your own law. Total failure to comply with your own law. Let's do some more of these. All written and telephone record correspondence between the town departments and the town board and the Greenville Fire District between March of 2016 to the current date. I mean, there are lots of those. You guys run a Microsoft Exchange server. You have an IT department for which we can go through the budget of. And I gave you very distinct search requirements on how to go and find these things. This would not take more than 20 minutes to find. Every single thing from the Greenville Fire District, every correspondence through a server which you operate, could not find. All town board and departmental written correspondence, including email documentation notes regarding Edgemont Incorporation or Edgemont Business between March 2016 to current date, including but not limited to, any discussion with or mentioning me, Jeff Sherwin, Mark Rosenblatt, John Lewis, Bob Bernstein, Hugh Schwartz, Mike Schwartz, Don Cannon, Marty Payson, Margaret Goldberg, Tom Blank, Yasmin Passia, and all non-privileged documents and emails with Lena Sharetta, James Gelfar, and William Harrington. Very clear search terms. Very clear search terms. The software provides you the ability to do this. You pay for software to do this. You have a department that does this. And today, this morning, I get 2 documents that may satisfy you, but doesn't satisfy me, containing 29 emails in response to this FOIL request. 29 emails, 21 of which are my own emails that I have already published on the web with links that all of you have seen. So of the 29 emails, only 28 of them are not my own emails. 5 of which are with Hugh Schwartz, which coincidentally are his discussions with you in February regarding Shelbourne, a subject, by the way, which he has said he's recused himself of, which is interesting. And one of which is a conversation about Edgemont Incorporation with the opposing counsel of Shelbourne. So that's what constitutes the response to this. Where are any of the emails regarding even the arrangements about the meeting at the El Dorado, the July 14th meeting, any conversations that you've had with the citizens group on for the Greenburgh Unincorporated Citizens Committee on how to deal with the Plan B with Lewis Pollitt's group. Where are those conversations? What about the email conversations that Ken Johns had regarding arranging the meeting at Theodore Young? Like any of those emails, any of that stuff. 21 emails? 21 in a month and a half?
Mr. Sherwin, that there's a law that says that you don't give every document that's emailed to someone else. You do understand that, right?
What are the limitations?
You understand that?
I understand that I don't get anything that's not privileged. Are you saying that are you saying the arrangement of Ken Jones showing up at Theodore Young is a privileged document?
Maybe. You don't know what's in the email. Right? You don't know if it's privileged or not. You're assuming.
Are you saying that the emails that Lewis Pollitt that between you and Lewis Pollitt are privileged?
I'm not saying that.
Any of the meetings, any of the conversations regarding budgets?
You're giving the impression that we're withholding documents, and we are not. You've received documents, and you've acknowledged that you have, and you haven't seemed to have found what you're looking for, so you assume that the town is holding something back, and we're not. My
goal isn't to give the impression that you guys are withholding information. My goal is to say that you aren't complying with the very laws that you have. Okay. And so I have here an email that I received that said, Tim Lewis has requested an additional extension of 20 days after we already had the first extension of 20 days in order to comply with your request. No reason cited. Anticipated date, not a date certain, is May 19th. There's no reason for me to believe that on May 19th I'm not going to get another email saying we expect another 20 business days.
You may,
Like you,
okay, do I have an opportunity to speak, or is this your show and only you get to speak?
no, I was told, I was said, please go through the request. I'm going through the request.
Okay, so let me just take a
Just
pause.
was that for your request that you're...
That's all of these requests.
So now,
Okay.
the town attorney can answer.
Okay, so I took responsibility for responding to your request. As you mentioned, I gave you a copy of the capital budget. Before I did that, I spoke to the controller, and she advised me that all the requests from all the department heads was in the capital budget. If that is not the case, I'll have to check with her and find out where those requests were. But I'm not the custodian of that document. I took charge of this because I wanted you to get the information, and this is what she advised me. That's number one. Number two, I contacted Joe Lucchese, who, as I mentioned, is the custodian or knows about the GB list. He provided it to me within a reasonable time after I requested it from him, and I gave that to you.
When did you make the request?
I don't recall. I'll find out for you. I don't specifically recall when I asked him for it. Number two, I emailed these documents to the clerk's office yesterday, and these are my emails that I was copied on. There are many other emails. Many of them are privileged documents. Many of them are interagency documents. You can challenge that if you like, but that was my interpretation. I did email this to the clerk's office yesterday. I see that you were in the office today, so you did receive some of these documents.
Oh yeah, no, I went through, I literally counted them. 29, there are 29 emails. 21 of them are with me, between you and myself, potentially, or between you and myself, but ones that I already had,
It
because
stands up to your request. Whether or not they're between you and the supervisor doesn't really matter. They mention other people, and they're all the emails that we have with respect to Edgemont Incorporation.
I asked for a year's worth of emails regarding Edgemont Incorporation, and you could produce 8 that didn't include me? 8?
This is what I have. In addition to that,
Okay.
you're
the one giving the impression, by the way, that you're
we
withholding
have to
documents.
serve, we have a disc from the MIS department, right, which I received a couple of weeks ago. As I mentioned to the town board in an email, I think it has approximately 6,000 documents on it.
6,000?
I have to go through those documents, and I will, but that's a very time-consuming process to determine whether or not they're privileged or they're not privileged. And, as the supervisor mentioned, you're not the only one who's foiled the town. There are like 100 foils of the town, and it takes time to go through all those documents.
But again, according to 368B1C, you need to provide me, the law says, you need to provide me a time and date certain.
I did provide you a time. I
You
provided
did.
you, I needed an additional 20 days. You said that I was advised that you found that unacceptable and that you wanted to have an appeal before the town
You
board.
just said 5 seconds ago that in that 20 days, you may request another 20 days. That is the very opposite of the definition of a date certain, Tim.
I don't have a date certain.